So very much, and thank you all for being here. I mean, like, wow, right? So first and foremost, I want to be very clear about something. Whenever I do ask you all for a hug, it's never to make you uncomfortable. It's just always to be able to know that for me, I believe in God, right? And I believe in that, right? So like I believe in Jesus, and I believe in that touch and agree. So therefore, whenever I hug you, I want you to know that I'm touching and agreeing with you, just to let you know that. Thank you. In 1985, a beautiful baby was born. A child that was immediately loved. Crying loudly, of course, because I'm a loud person. And of course it was because the doctor spanked me, and not in a good way. It was in a way to make me cry, right? He then looked at my mother, and he told my mother, he said, "Congratulations, you've had a healthy baby boy." She wrapped me in her arms, and she rubbed my head, and she went in to kiss me, and she loved on me. She loved on me the way that only a mother could love on me. They say that there's no love like a mother's love. And I must say that to an extent, I also agree. My mother and I, we were best friends. You know, I can remember when I rode a bike and my father took the training wheels off and I rode the bike and I fell down and as I fell down, it scraped my knee, of course, and when it scraped my knee, it was hurting and it bled a little bit, but my mother, she came and she, as we would say back then, she kissed my boo-boo, you know, and that touched me, right? My first baseball game or my first football game, let's keep it real here, because before I am black, I am trans, and also before I am trans, I am black, so I am trans, and I did have an experience. So she was at my games, and she supported me. I remember hearing my mother sitting in the front saying, "That's my baby, ha! That's my baby," although I was being struck out. But then reality hit, and I was also the first to be put out. Not only was I the first born, but I was the first to be put out. 17 alone and without. I had nowhere to go. I had nowhere to turn to. I had no one to talk to, and I had no one to turn to. You know, being 17 and having nothing, having nowhere to go and no one to talk to, nowhere to turn to, no one to run to, no arms that could hold me, no one that could embrace me, no one that would love on me the way that I expected that my mother to love on me. I grew up at a time where we talked about this thing that was called suicide, but in black community, we didn't really talk about suicide. And when we heard about suicide, it was our white brothers and sisters or the others brothers and sisters. It wasn't our people, people that look like you and people that look like me, that were doing these things, which we called suicide. We knew of these things as being something that would condemn us to a place that we knew nothing about, but we only heard of, which was called hell. When I was homeless, I saw suicide. I looked suicide dead in her eyes. I met suicide. I extended myself to the thoughts of suicide. You know, I remember what it was like whenever I would have to go through the drive-thrus. See, some of you all go through the drive-thrus to place an order, but when I was homeless, I went through the drive-thrus, excuse me, to simply see if there was change that was dropped at the drive-thru window. See, you got your food at the window because you placed your order at the little thing that was back there where the menu was. But see, for me, I walked past that menu because there was no need to be at that menu because I had no money to pay for the food, if that makes any sense to any of you. I would go to the drive-through window and I would try to grab the change that someone had dropped very quickly because I knew that soon after they would either call the police or they would run me off. See, I remember what it was like to experience homelessness. And for those of you who have not experienced homelessness, you should acknowledge that as a privilege and a benefit and be thankful and grateful for that. I remember what it was like to have nothing. I remember what it was like to sit there and smell the food. I don't know how many of you all have heard of Burger King, but Burger King, whenever they steam something, it comes through the vents and you can smell it. It fills the air all over. I remember my stomach growling because I was so hungry. I remember what it was like trying to pick up change with long fingernails and do it quickly. It wasn't that fun. But I remember what it was like whenever I would ask someone for change. And I would ask them, do you have just some spare change, just so that I can get something to eat? I remember what they would tell me. For my change, what would you do? Get off of our floor, off of our property, please. Don't come back here, or we will call the police on you. I am she, and she was me. I remember what it was like when they told me that I can go to a shelter. They told me that there was safe space. They told me that there was a place where I could go and lay my head and not have any worries. I believed in them. I said to myself that this is somewhere that I should be, because sleeping underneath a bus stop or sleeping underneath a bridge or sleeping in places where I can find somewhere to be able to close my eyes and lay me down to sleep was so hard to do. I felt that there was a place that I could have shelter and comfort. I remember when I walked through the doors, what they told me. I remember how they told me that if I wanted to be here, right, at the shelter, if I wanted to be here, that I would have to remove the hair, I would have to remove the clothing, and then I can be allowed shelter. I remember thinking to myself that if I was to do that, I could have stayed at home with Mama. If I could have made that sacrifice, I could have stayed at home with my mother, with my little sister, with my little brother who was taken from me. They both were. My mother told me that I was contagious. The family said the same thing. I was pushed away. In Houston, there was a trans woman who went to a shelter. The doors were closed, not because she was trans. The doors was closed because that trans shelter that provided shelter and access to shelter lost its funding. And those doors were closed. She then left, and as she was walking that night, regardless of what it was that she may have been doing, she was shot dead in the streets of Houston. I am she, and she was me. I went to a shelter. The doors were closed on me. The difference is that I'm here standing before you on today, and she's laid to rest. Does anyone remember who she is? Did anyone know who she was? Can anyone remember the relationship that was there? Was she put out by her mother at a specific time in life during her transition? Again, I am she, and she was me. We all have this thing that's called blood. The blood that runs through our veins. My blood type may be different from yours, and your blood type may be different from mine. But when we are shot, when we are lynched, when we are stabbed, when we are beaten, when we are murdered, our blood fills the streets. I am she, and she was me. I just want to remind you all of something. We have so much that is in common with one another. Some of our experiences may be different, but there's so many things that we have in common with one another. Some of those things that we have experienced in our struggles could be depression, homelessness, suicidal thoughts. But when we say suicidal thoughts, let's not forget about the suicidal attempts. Hello, somebody. We also have issues with mental health. You have those that have issues with the loss of a loved one that truly encouraged them or truly empowered them during their transition in their walk in life. You had people that were doing this thing that they call couch surfing, which means that you were sleeping from one sofa to the next sofa. You have people that were doing this thing that they said back in the day that they were robbing from Peter to pay Paul. The fact is that we're living in a time where being black and brown is dangerous in itself. Being a black man, your blood too can fill the streets. I am she, and she was me. Being a black woman, your blood can fill the streets. I am she, and she was me. Being a black trans man, oh, no matter how stealth you may be, your blood can too fill the streets. Because again, I am she, and she was me. Oh, to my sisters, oh, how I love thee. Oh, how I love thee. Because I know that if my struggle was one thing, that your struggle may have been another thing, and that whatever it was that I have gone through, that you may too be able to come through. But at the end of the day, your story is a little bit different than my story, no matter how passable you may be. Oh, no matter how fine you may be. Your blood too can fill the streets. I am she, and she was me. We will say their names. We will remember them. Each and every year we will do this thing that is called a TDOR, a Transgender Day of Remembrance, where we will say their names and we will remember them. But I'm here to remind you that when we say that we will remember them, we must stop speaking in them, those, and them. And we should start saying I, we, and us. Because again, I am she, and she was me. I welcome you all as my BTAC family. I also welcome you all to BTAC 2017. I ask that you look around this room. Go ahead, look around. Y'all can look at me all day, but look around. I want you all to see what we look like. This is your family. This is your family. This is your space. This is your space. Can you feel that? Can you feel that? I hope that you embrace that. I hope that you get that while you're here doing this conference. And I hope that when you leave that you know that just as well. You know, as you all looked around, one of the things that I want you all to ask yourself is that for some of us, we may be a little older, at least y'all are. Of course, I'm going to go with 21. I at least have to be older enough to drink. Yes. But we must look around and we must realize something. That as we look at our younger generations, that we must inspire them. We must empower them. We must encourage them. I say so often that not every person that is on the face of the earth is meant to be the President of the United States of America. Okay. Some people are simply put here to fry French fries. We should encourage our French fry cooks. We should encourage the people that don't know how to lead in the way that you lead, because when we say do the work, we must ask ourselves, what is the work? I empower you. I encourage you. I approve of you. But in reality, you don't need my approval because it's already there. You were approved before the sperm met the egg. If you believe in God, then you can turn to the book of Jeremiah 1:5, and it says that before you were developed in the womb, I knew you. And at that time, I ordained you. So you don't need the ordination from man. You got it from someone that is way more powerful. I would like to congratulate BTMI and BTAC for their 6 years. I would like to congratulate BTWI for our 5 years. But I would also like for this to serve you as a reminder that when you get tired, when you get weak, when that struggle gets real, when someone leaves you that you loved, that encouraged you, that empowered you, that embodied you, I want you to remember this. I want you to remember this feeling. I want you to remember these faces. When I said to look around, I didn't want you to look to see who was pretty. I wanted you to look to see who was here. That's right. Because in reality, sometimes when we look around, we don't have this. We don't have this. There's a song that says that I need you. You need me. We're all a part of this God that we say that some of us serve, and for some of us that don't serve a God, that don't look up to a God, but we look up to a universe, right? We all that we got. I need you. For those of you that this is your first year, I need you. Thank you for being here. I need you. We need you. I'm going to speak on behalf of the board of BTWI to see so many beautiful women that are here. We need you. I will also take my privilege as Keynote, and I will speak on behalf of BTMI. And those of you that are new faces that are here, we need you. We will rise. We will use the murders as reminders. That's what we have to do. There's no way that we can stop murders. We have to start keeping it real with ourselves. How can we stop someone from murdering someone and they're doing it because of their own reasons? We can't do that. But what we can do is we can use these murders as a platform for us. They say things like stepping stones. Allow these murders to be our stepping stones. These murders, for some of you all, is what drew you here, because you needed this love. You needed to see more black faces and black bodies that look like you, that experience the things that you have experienced. I am she, and she was me. Most importantly, I will not give up. And I hope that you will not give up. I will not hide in fear. And I hope that you will not hide in fear. I will continue to be unapologetically black and trans. Yes. And I encourage you to do the same. But before I leave, I hope that you get the message. And the message should be very clear. And to my brothers, it may come off the wrong way. But I want to let you know that again, I am she, and she was me. Thank you.